guys, well, I've gotten several requests to go over the Mystery Ranch Hot Top, my Wildland Fire bag, in more detail of just the bag specifically. There's some guys that look like they're gearing up for this year's season and want to get a closer look. And unfortunately, there isn't a whole lot online about a lot of these fire packs, so I'm going to try and do my best to go through in detail. Many of you follow my channel. I do have a video of all the stuff that I had loaded in after the first season. It changed a little bit in the second season. If I get enough requests, I can always go over that. So diving right into the front pouch here, it does have nice big, these are sort of reversed waterproof zippers. They are YKK zippers. They come down about halfway, a little over half of the pouch. It lets you access this. This is fairly deep enough, probably 3 inches deep. Inside you can keep all sorts of, I usually have my trauma case, trauma kit, first aid and things like that in here, but it's a deep enough pocket you can carry some pretty good sized gear. Behind that is a mesh organizing panel. Moving down to the fire shelter case, of course it wouldn't be a fire bag without the fire shelter. This is a separate component you do have to purchase from separately from the bag. It will fit the newer shelters. There's a little bit of webbing on the bottom. Of course, you've got access to your shelter piece is Velcroed onto the lid. So one tear from there releases the lid and out comes your shelter. The shelter is hooked on with both Alice clips and these buckles. These are the Mystery Ranch auto lock buckles. You can see it close up. We'll add some pictures. But I don't know why everyone doesn't use these auto lock buckles. You saw in my Mystery Ranch Nice review that they use that, and it's basically a cam lock. So once you tighten these things down, they do not loosen. I've got them on fairly tight to help keep that secure. What it does is help pull that away from the bag, and I'll show you the side view in a second, but this gives you access to the Alice clips there. And then re-clip them on. There is a very thick plastic piece that gets sewn in as part of the bag, and if you can see, the bag back actually comes down about this angle. And so what the buckles do in that little wedge piece is it helps tilt that fire shelter up and away from that bag, and really helps keep it off the back of your butt and your thighs when you're hiking and when you're digging line. The bottom part of the main pouch is reinforced. I wish the reinforcement of that plastic piece to keep it a little bit more rigid would come back a little bit farther. The edge of the bag seam is about 3 inches away, and there's a good amount of movement from that. It's not anything terribly noticeable, but if they ever make improvements to the pack, I would recommend moving that reinforcement to make it the entire width of the base of the pack. But the webbing does help draw that forward and away. Now, the main thing that you're going to notice is how does the pack fit and the comfort of it. This is the hip waist belt here. There is some lumbar padding here. A lot of the back areas has this sort of athletic mesh material. Very strong, haven't had any issues with that. But the hip belts are in the more rugged material. Very nice thick cushion padding. Nice big 2-inch buckles. Eventually I'm hoping that Mystery Ranch will update just their buckle system into the cam setup, where it runs back from the buckle and then from the side cinch forward instead of the old-fashioned way of pulling back. That may add complexity to it, and maybe they're just not looking to add anything else that could fail. Now, when I initially purchased this pack, I did pick up their extra buckle kit, figuring that I would have some failure somewhere, and I haven't used any of the buckle accessories, so hopefully I won't need them, but it's a nice extra piece to add on. On the side of the hip strap is some more reinforced material inside here that gives it a lot of rigidity. It will fit MOLLE. I did have the Maxpedition single sheath multi-tool pouch on the other side. The Maxpedition compass pouch here is put on with Alice clips. Now, as you move up from the hip belt, you'll get into the main top harness piece. Again, same webbing. You've got a chest strap on here to help keep your, all your backpacking features you'll look at. Very heavy duty webbing everywhere. Nice thick padding. Same athletic mesh material. In here is the exact same harness system as the Mystery Ranch Nice frame. So in there I showed you the frame sheet that helps adjust this top portion up and down through this channel that runs all the way to the bottom, and we'll get that in a second. There is not much support other than some plastic reinforcement here, and then you get to this very stiff reinforced top portion, and I've added some steel in there actually to help make that a more solid system. So flipping around to the other side of the top piece of the harness, there is a buckle system that comes across. Actually got it underneath there. This is sewn and tacked about a third down here, which enables you to put a smaller tool handle or something to keep it from sliding all the way back and forth. Obviously, if it's something bigger than that, you can just put it here and put the buckle all the way across. There are two vertical buckles, same auto lock system on here, so when you wrench these tight, they will not loosen. Often enough, if your harness starts pulling forward or away from you, you can actually use these to help keep them pulled back to keep that straighter. You can also, all sorts of stuff. Line EMTs can use this for your medic roll on top of your bag so you have easy access to it. I've seen guys run hose lays and put extra 100 feet of hose up there. It's an easy place to keep a lot of your tapes that are easily available, any handles for any small gas tools or anything like that. To access your harness, pull on the orange tab here, and underneath you'll see a similar frame sheet like we went over in the Mystery Ranch Nice frame. What this frame sheet allows you to do is you'll see all this hook and loop field in here. That allows you to get down there and separate it. Actually, I'll flip it around. And separate all that Velcro so you can slide this frame sheet up and down. Now, as I showed you on the back side, with this frame sheet, it is only about a foot long, 10 inches to a foot long here. The frame sheet, as it stops here, becomes a hinge point. So if you have your pack loaded quite a bit, this channel piece comes all the way to the very bottom of the pack. And because you have a stiff frame here, it acts as a hinge. Now I have a steel plate in there right now that won't allow that to do that, and it helps reinforce that frame sheet. So if Mystery Ranch is listening, we can have this extended, or we can include a stronger frame sheet that extends all the way to the bottom. And I'll put in a couple clips. I did have plans to replace this with aluminum. This is something I did in the middle of last season. I'll put in some quick photos while I'm doing it. But this does go all the way to the bottom, and it comes up to about here. So right here is where the frame will start to bend. But when I add in the stock frame sheet, now it completes that system all the way up and down. And it still gives a really good comfortable arc. It doesn't hinder you in bending over and digging line or anything else, but it really helps keep that more of a structured system in there. All right, on top, because this is the Mystery Hot Top, it has a sort of backpack style top lid to the bag system. That does come off with 4 buckles, and they do extend quite a ways, so if you need to build this up and cinch it down on some more items, it is the auto lock buckles here and down below. So you can cinch this all the way into the bag and down if you have some unruly items. Top portion is fairly good size. I'll keep extra goggles, lights, PP&E, extra gloves, anything you're trying to access quick up here without having to get into the bag, just like you would any sort of backpack style. To unclip them, it's just 4 clips, and you can remove the entire lid. The buckle system is sewn in here. So behind the bag system, where the base of the harness is, there's a nice heavy duty webbing here for hanging your bag. I recommend using this rather than any of the other webbing on there. Behind that, attached to the draft collar, is where your hydration tubes can come out. The draft collar comes up probably a good 6 inches above the main pack, and I will try to fold it out of the way so you can kind of get a look inside the pack. There is a hydration bladder area. This bag here, it only accepts the sort of long and skinny bladders. As you guys saw, I use a Camelback 6 liter. And so what I use, I just lay it against that. I don't actually use that for much of storage of anything. I try to keep my water as close to my back as possible and centered. But in there, the only other item is this webbing here. And the webbing comes from the front of the bag, out here where that front pocket is, to the back of the harness system. And that enables you to cinch that whole bag and suck up any extra bag as a compression to your back to help keep it from wobbling and wiggling. My only complaint, it does work perfectly, except it is not one of those auto lock buckles. It is a smaller piece of maybe 3/4 inch webbing, and if you have a lot of weight in here and you're bouncing down a dozer line, that will loosen up. So at a lunch break, cinch it back down, helps keep all that weight from wobbling and getting closer to your back where you want it. But otherwise, as far as capacity goes, I've got 4 2-liter bottles. I'm trying to find stuff that you guys can reference as far as overall size without just giving you dimensions. But as you can see in there, I have 4 2-liter bottles, and there's plenty of extra room. In fact, I could probably get a 5th in there. It's that big. So it's got a decent amount of storage. Now, I like the top loading because there is nothing to fail. This is basically just a big bucket at this point. You can load anything you need, mission essential gear or whatever you're doing that day. Night shifts, throw an extra jacket in there for breaks. But their other version that is not the hot top, I think it's just called the Hot 3, the zipper comes across and then down the front. So that opens the whole thing. And if you go to the website, you can see pictures of that. So on the very side of the pack are, they're identical on both sides. Again, huge, heavy duty, waterproof YKK zippers that allow you into this sleeve in here. And there is some foam just to give the bag more rigidity. And it also helps protect it against things like I've got a really nice file in here for my tools, because not always do you have a good file. Not everyone knows how to use a file. So sharp, pointy, long things I keep back there. This also will hold your fusees or anything like that. Identical pouches on either side. And then let's tilt it down here so you can see the main sort of dump pouches on the side. Again, identical on both sides. Very typical for a fire pack to have. A lot of times guys will put their waters and things like that. I've got some standard 16 ounce Aquafinas, very typical of what you'd see from a fire camp. Easily fits 5. You can squish a 6th one in there. And that kind of gives you a size comparison. Quite a bit of stuff. And you know, it's not always going to be water bottles. Oftentimes it's going to be like a SIG bottle to hold your, soft fuel, 2-stroke oil. This is just an overall sort of dump pouch that most fire packs use on the side. I generally don't keep a whole lot of water on the side. I'll generally have maybe 1 to access quickly, or a Gatorade I'll keep separately. As I mentioned, I use a hydration bladder, a 6-liter, and I use that in the center and get it close to my back. There's a drain hole in the bottom of it. On the side of the dump pouches are some daisy chained, so you can add clips and things like that. One thing I did find, that when you remove the top lid off the hot top, the buckles that are left here will usually hook up to a bladder bag, or more commonly known as a piss bag. It is a flexible 5-gallon sort of water reservoir that with a pump attachment. And a lot of times, a lot of engines use them. Well, even though that we're a hand crew, we will generally carry those if we know we're going to be away from water. Dry mopping is no fun, and if we can get a little bit of water, we will hump it into the back. So an added 50 pounds to this pack, whether you're using their straps, which I don't really like the extra strapping on there. So generally what I'll do is I'll unclip the strapping that comes with the bladder bag, and I'll simply clip the bladder bag up to the top, and I use a carabiner down here on the buckles for the fire shelter, and that carabiner on here will attach to a loop, a hanging loop that the bladder bags come with, and that'll help keep it from moving side to side. And that's how generally I carry a bladder bag. It is not totally necessary to do. It does put added weight on the harness system, because you've got more weight now that's way out here that's really pulling back, and that's where that added rigidity that I added into the harness system really comes into play, from keeping that folding backwards. There is a gap between your back, and I'll try and insert a photo here. that allows your back to breathe fairly well. If you've got this all the weight on your hips and you've got this relaxed a little bit, there will be a nice gap back here that allows airflow, even with without the metal addition upgrade that I've added in here. And you know, I'll weigh that and put in annotations how much more weight that is. It isn't much. And again, I'll probably switch to aluminum, but I hope that answers all your questions. Let me know if you have any other specific questions with the Mystery Ranch bag. It is made in the USA. It's made up in Bozeman, Montana, and they make some terrific gear, and they back up their claims with a 3-year warranty. So I contacted them about the zipper issue. Immediately she sent me a thing. She said, hey, can you send me a picture of it? Which I did. The same photos I'll insert into here. And you know, she said no problem. You know, it's going to be cheaper. Just because of the time crunch, I wanted to make sure I had this already. So I bought this before. I'm going to send the other one back so that I know I'm not without it. We are also going to be testing several other packs. I've tested the True North packs, and there are variations of the True North pack. They are not as comfortable, and I can insert some photos. Most of my crew wears them. I will say that the Mystery Ranch, because of their sizing, their waist strap is specific to, you know, small, medium, large, and so is their harness system. And that really kind of negates it to be an easy choice for a large crew order. So everyone's going to have to order their own specific one, which really doesn't lend itself to a rotating crew that's coming through your company. So Mystery Ranch is great, but it's going to be a personal fit to you, which is a good thing. But for anyone out there looking to do a mass purchase, it's not really an item that you'd be able to buy 20 of these and have a rotating crew, because everyone's going to be fit differently. After talking to some of the guys up in Washington, the Hot Shot crew, he did advise me, just the way he thought the pack was riding really high on me, to get the larger harness. I am running a medium harness, which is good up to 6'4", which is right where I'm at. 6'3", 6'4" is usually where I'm at. But because you can access these larger dump pouches while holding the pack on your back without taking them off. You can reach back and grab a water bottle out of here. It's not a big deal for me because, like I said, I don't generally use that for the water. I'm using the Camelback system. But because I usually have this riding a little bit higher on my back, and it is noticeable because, as I said, these are generally designed as sort of a lumbar pack and to stay lower. So I may look into the large harness system to maybe see if I can get that down there. Maybe the large harness system has a little bit more support in there and I won't need to run that metal plate in there. But let me know if there's any other questions, guys. This is Beast with a close-up look of the Mystery Ranch Hot Top Fire Bag. Thanks for watching.